Well, food allergies and other issues seem to be on the rise these days. So we're going to find out how to cook some healthy foods for people with food allergies and all kinds of issues. I'm here with Ellen Saby of High Q Foods. We're actually inside the Purple Carrot. Alan, thanks so much for letting us come in and invade your space today.
No problem.
Love it. You're going to teach us how to cook. First of all, tell me about High Q Foods. How did this get started? What's your backstory?
Sure. Well, I was type 2 diabetic, 250 pounds. I'd come from a kickboxing background. So I was, cutting weight, putting on weight, cutting weight, coaching guys. And when I stopped doing that, I just kept putting on weight. And turns out I was insulin resistant. That's in my genes. I was my whole life. Couldn't really understand what was wrong. Got tested for type 2 diabetes, and I said, what's type 2 diabetes? And the doctor said, it's high blood sugar. And I was like, well, let's just call it high blood sugar then. That's, So then I didn't do anything about it for 9 years, because I'm a guy. And then it got really, really bad. And I won't tell you that whole story, but once it got really bad, I decided I better do something about it. And the doctor wanted to put me on medication. I said, just give me 3 months. And in 3 months with food alone, I completely reversed it and have been on this path of shouting from the top of my lungs ever since.
Okay, and it's just all about the food.
All about the food.
Okay, so this kind of, you were like, wow, light bulb going off in your head. Other people need to know about this.
Yeah. And being from like a fitness background, right? And having people cut weight and teach them how to do it, for me and my body type, it was completely wrong. And to be able to learn how food is just that medicine, and and all the issues that we face with our food manufacturing and what was in the stores, to eliminate all that and live like I have now for 5 years with completely controllable blood sugars, down a bunch of weight, loving life, running in the coolies, and cooking my ass off.
Okay, were you always a cook though, or is this?
I've always loved to cook. I've always been the guy that goes to everybody else's house and cooks, but I have worked in a few commercial kitchens. I quit what I was doing, started working in some commercial kitchens, and just expanded into doing it myself, and it's always been a passion.
So this isn't a restaurant per se, but it's more like people order food from you and you deliver?
Correct. There's 2 ways they can get food from me. You can order it online, or you can just show up in the coolers or the freezers and get food here.
Interesting. Okay, so what are these exactly?
These are steaks. These are 10 ounce, 9 and 10 ounce.
That.
Yeah, I know, it looks like it. So those have come out of the sous vide machine. They've been in there for an hour and a half, and they're perfect medium rare right now. So we're just going to get these pans smoking hot.
And what kind of steak is it?
It's a top sirloin.
Sirloin, okay.
So this is the kind of steak that you would normally get in a steak sandwich. Go to a restaurant, order a steak sandwich, that's what you get, right? But they're good steaks because they're really low fat. They're really super lean, and once you do it like this, you'll think you're cutting into a prime rib. But when you get a pan that bounces, see how the water bounces around like that?
I do.
Well, that means it's not going to stick. I could do an egg in there and flip it no problem now. So a little bit of oil. Don't put water in the pan after you put oil. You'll have a fire on your hands. And now, because these steaks are literally already cooked, what we're going to do is we're just going to reverse sear them. It's my favorite sound in the world.
The sizzling steak. Okay, so you mentioned, well, first of all, I have my apron on now, so I can help you do some chopping of some onions and whatnot. Want me to stir these up? Okay, I did wash my hands as well.
That's good.
Okay, so Alan, you mentioned you have clients.
I do.
You have other programs.
Yeah.
What kind of programs do you have here? So if somebody can come and almost like a consultation?
Right now, we're in week 2 of an online program. There's 10 different ladies that are doing what I call it a wellness fat adaptation program, and basically teach them how to be low carb. Everybody's body needs to learn how to burn fat better, right? We've never done it because we eat so many carbohydrates.
Right.
But the way we evolved was to absolutely burn fat for fuel. Our body can only store a couple thousand calories of sugar, but if you would have seen me, obviously a ton of fat, right? Why? And the reason is, it's because that's energy. But as long as we're eating carbohydrates, we can never access that energy. So as I teach people to, great job. As I teach people to, look at that nice sear. As I teach people how their bodies can be fat adapted, and that's cutting out carbs, but it's not for life, right? It's only a 6-week program, and then I teach people how to sustain that. And once people can sustain that, then you definitely can introduce, high fiber and good carbs and yams and all kinds of beans and lentils and all kinds of things. But once we're fat adapted, it's shown that as long as we go back there a couple times a week, we can sustain that forever, because we want to effectively burn fat for fuel. And we especially want to be able to have those ketones present when we need them, right? So it's always amazing because after 4 weeks, people are like, that's weird. We restrict the feeding window to 6 hours a day, and they're not hungry. Why is that? Because we have calories. We have all the fuel we need.
Exactly.
Like, go to the fridge. Go get something, body.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly.
So that's the premise of it.
So would you say that no two people are the same in terms of how they store their fat, how they metabolize everything? Yeah.
Well, there's such a thing as bio-individuality, right? Like everybody's got 2 arms, 2 legs, 5 fingers, but everybody's got dysbiosis is a little bit different. And women especially, I mean, they just get the short end of the stick. You guys are way more antibiotics as a rule than men, and that destroys your gut biome. So I make sauerkraut here, fresh sauerkraut. That's in the shelves. The bone broth has got very, very good stuff for your guts as well. But if you're high blood sugar versus high cholesterol, or maybe you're underactive thyroid, overactive thyroid, there's all little nuances there to what we can do. So it's not all exact. There's not a cookie cutter, but like 80% of it's the same.
So is this basically the keto diet?
Well, it is getting you to burn fat, right? So it definitely is, but the keto diet can mean anything to anybody, right? I mean, you could just eat salami and be in ketosis. So the fact that you have ketones present means that you're in ketosis, and that's where the word keto diet comes from. But how you go about that in a healthy manner versus dirty keto and everything else, I don't like to use the word too much, but I do measure ketones. The nice lady that was just here, her ketones are up high. She just finished the workout, super happy, losing a lot of weight.
Okay.
Fat burns differently than sugar, definitely, in our energy pathways. And for 1 molecule of fat, we can get 54 units of energy.
Right.
Sugar is only 38.
Okay.
And it's less oxidative stress, and all kinds of advantages, which is why our body stores it, and it doesn't store sugar. So it is getting you into ketosis, and then we want that fat adaptation to stay there with you with the rest of your life, right?
There's so much science behind this.
Lots of science, yeah.
Yeah.
But basically, like, the old school diet was eat less and do more. And we still have to be in a caloric deficit, but if we're in a caloric deficit adding sugar, then we've lowered the energy going into our machine, right?
Okay. This looks like a fairly simple meal that anybody can really cook. It's nothing really outside of the norm, and we're talking steak and onions and veggies. So you're basically just cutting out the fats, you're cutting out the carbs, right?
Well, the fats are, the fats come from, I use the healthy oil in, extra virgin olive oil on the roasted veg. We definitely used, you could use ghee as well, but I used an regular olive oil to saute the onions. Yeah. And then a quick sear on the steak,
okay.
Right?
You mentioned bone broth.
Yeah.
Do you cook a lot with broth?
I do, and that's how I started. I started taking broth because I found out how good it was for us. And what bone broth is it's grass-fed, grass-finished beef bones or pasture-raised chicken, and you cook that down with basically some veg for 16 hours. And that extracts and leaches a lot of healthy minerals out of the bones, out of the marrow. I mean, it's something that we survived on. 200 years ago, you'd be eating broth right now, right? That's what you would have, and so I use it in all my soups.
And we'd all be real skinny.
And you'd all be real skinny,
Right.
Exactly. And there's a lot of advantages to bone broth because it's really high in collagen, which is in your intestines, something called hydrophilic, so it protects your intestinal wall, and gelatin. Gelatin is hydrophilic, collagen, hair, skin, nails.
That
right?
is amazing.
Yeah. So it's really good for us, along with all the nutrients and protein that's in it. And if you do it right, it's super tasty. But that's all I use for soups and everything here is my own broth.
Right. So a meal like this, or most of the meals that you make, what's the average type? Is this pretty much your average meal, or do you?
No, this is special because it's Steak Tuesday, and you came,
okay,
right?
okay.
So I had to do something
usually
special.
make?
Well, online you'll see, and out in the coolers every day, you'll see a Caesar salad where I make my own dressing here from scratch. And again, I'm a huge believer with my cooking classes and teaching people if you can just make it yourself from scratch, you're you're not using inflammatory oils, you're controlling the ingredients, you're going to be way better off.
How do you know if it's an inflammatory oil versus not?
Yeah, that's a great question. If you can squeeze it, if you can cold press it and oil comes out, it's a good oil. If not, like seed oil, you can go to the store and say vegetable oil, and there's pictures of broccoli and carrot on it. But you can't get oil out of broccoli and carrots. But Food Canada and the States, they allow you to say vegetable oil when it's a seed oil, and that's a 15-step process with chemicals, and they got to put deodorants in there because it's rancid, and then it's very high in what's called omega-6 to omega-3. It's not good oil, right? And
so
studies have shown that if you can squeeze it,
you can eat it. Basically.
So that's basically avocado oil and extra virgin olive oil. Coconut oil is cold pressed as well, which I use a lot.
Okay. So this is really good for, you were mentioning people with gluten problems.
That's correct, yeah.
Diabetes.
That's correct.
What if you have, say, IBS?
Yeah, IBS, there's a lot of studies that show that like sugar and of course gluten, it feeds bacteria in their gut that aren't probiotics, but they can still populate. They can still get nasty, right?
Yeah.
So IBS is also been shown to really help improve with sauerkraut. We want to balance that gut biome, right? And if with sauerkraut, we're trying to build up the good biome and starve the bad bacteria, right? And that good biome, that good gut biome, those good probiotics, in order for biotic to turn pro, I always say, it has to be able to generate hormones, it has to be able to regulate your autoimmune system, has to do all these things. And the sugar and people with SIBO, small intestine bacterial overgrowth, they don't have, it's a huge dysbiosis, it's a huge imbalance. So eating like this is really, really important, along with a good probiotic schedule and prebiotic schedule.
Okay, so you were going to show me something. Maybe chopping an onion.
That's right. We're going to get you to chop an onion. I do cooking classes, and my huge belief is not only do we talk nutrition for 3 hours and maybe have a little wine, nothing wrong with that.
Oh, that's fine.
Wine's okay, red wine's okay, people.
Of course.
But what I want, because I'm a firm believer in, if you just make a change to making everything yourself, that's a huge jump, because then you're controlling the ingredients. So I teach people how to hold a knife, and how to chop onions, how to chop a bell pepper. So I'm going to chop an onion. I'm going to show you how to chop an onion, and we're going to get you to chop an onion.
Okay, we'll see if I can live up to the standard here.
So we got a root and we got a stem. So we cut the stem off, right? And then I leave the root on and I cut it in half. Okay, now you might want to just pause while I just take this off, take the skin off. Now the reason I leave the root on is twofold. One, it holds it together, right? And two, a lot of that stuff that makes you cry, when the root is cut, that's what the releases.
I was just going to ask you, Alan, do you have a special trick for not crying?
It's to leave the root on.
So leave just one root on.
And then when you hold your knife, get a good shot of that. We want to hold it with those 3 fingers, not on top, but we want to pinch it like a golf club, but we want to pinch it. So if I take those fingers off, I'm holding the knife. It's like choking up on a bat. I've got a good solid control of that knife now, right? And then we don't want to cut all the way through. We just want to use our fingers as a guide. Cut it and then strokes this way. Flip it down. You have an onion you're making.
Very
If you can cut an onion that fast without chopping a finger off, you're going to be like, who cares?
Okay.
So now we want to cut. We don't want to cut all the way down to the root. We just want to.
You know what? I'm actually left-handed.
Okay, go.
So does this mess everything up?
No, it doesn't.
Like
No,
that,
see, you
right?
grabbed that perfectly right off the bat. So now you want to cut along the lines of the onion.
Okay, but
you
not
don't
all the
wanna-
way.
But you don't want to cut all the way through.
Right.
So you want to use your fingers as a guide.
Like here?
Look at me. You put it like this and you rock it forward so that your knife never goes
Oh, past my finger?
past your fingers. So you want to grab it like this. Yeah.
Look at this. We're chopping 101, and now
And then same thing, like get your little perfect little fingernails out of the way. So you want to hold it, like this, right there, and then rock it forward. And then the blade comes up, put the blade against my fingers, and go down. There you go. And then I move this back and it does it again. There you go. So that way you don't cut off those nails or your fingers.
Oh no.
See it already, that's
the
really
nails are not
really
coming off,
fast.
believe me.
And when it comes too thin, you just rock that root down so it's got a good flat surface. Yeah. And then that goes in the composter.
Probably not as perfect.
No, but it's really good.
Okay, so Alan, we're talking a lot about this. So what is somebody's first step on their food healing journey, so to speak?
Well, I think two of the greatest things that you can do is cut out sugar and increase your probiotics, right? Really learn what inflammatory oil is. Stay away from seed oils. Really improve that. Cook from scratch as much as you can. That's more than one thing. But number one, I tell everybody, if you have any kind of a weight issue or allergy issues, let's cut out sugar. Number one.
Oh, it's so hard to do that, though.
I know. And I always say hunger is one thing, but craving's another. We really shouldn't crave anything, right? Being hungry is normal. Who cares? Craving something? something's wrong.
Well, Alan, thank you so much. Before I grab another great big piece of steak here, I just want to say thank you so much for having us down here, teaching me how to cook these delicious, nutritious meals. Hopefully, I know I've learned something, definitely. Hopefully our viewers have as well. This is Alan Saby of High Q Foods. Thanks so much.
Well, thank you. Come and see us. Kitchen is inside the Purple Carrot. Most people don't know. Thanks for coming down.